Hello, children. Today we are going to discuss a story, The Bond of Love, by Kenneth Anderson. Kenneth Anderson was an India born British writer and hunter. He wrote about his adventures in jungles of South India. He was born on 8th March 1910 in Bengaluru and died on 30th August 1974 in Bengaluru. The theme of this story is love and friendship between human beings and wild animals. And also, it tells you that animals have an affectionate heart and intelligence. Animals have feelings and intelligence. That also is the part of the theme. So, there can be friendship between human beings and animals. And animals also have feelings like humans, and they also have intelligence. On this theme, this story is based. Let us begin as you are told in the introduction. Can there be love and friendship between human beings and wild animals? Let's read a fascinating account of an orphaned sloth bear that was rescued by the author. Rescued means saved. Well, let us read further. It's here. Sloth bears inhabit forested areas, including the tropical rainforests of India and grasslands of lower elevations. Sloth bears have very shaggy hair and long muzzles. Very shaggy, that means untidy hair, as you can see in this picture. They have very untidy, rough hair and long muzzles. This part, as you can see in the picture, this part of the face is called long muzzle. Using their claws to dig, they can then use their lips to form a tube which can go deep into the ground or into hard to reach areas like dead trees for their food. Their main food is termites. Termites means white ants which eat wood. Wood is the food of white ants or termites, and this termites is the food of the sloth bear. You can hear them suck up their food from several feet away. So this is the story of such a sloth bear. Okay, let us begin the story. The sorry, the first paragraph. The first paragraph goes like this. I will begin with Bruno. Bruno is the name given to the sloth bear, which was a pet of the author. The author had kept a sloth bear as a pet, and he had given him the name Bruno. So I will begin with Bruno, my wife's pet sloth bear. I got him for her by accident. Now the narrator tells you how he got the sloth bear. 2 years ago, we were passing through the sugarcane fields near Mysore. People were driving away the wild pigs from the fields by shooting at them. At the time, shooting the wild pigs and other wild animals was not a crime. The laws were not strict as they are today. So the hunters used to shoot wild pigs. The wild pigs would come and destroy their crops, sugarcane or maize, corn, etc. in the cornfields or sugarcane fields. So the hunters used to hunt the wild pigs. So they were driving away the wild pigs and hunting them. Hunter and the narrator. The other hunters were there in the party, and the narrator also was there. Some were shot and some escaped. Some wild pigs were shot, they were shot dead, and some escaped. We thought that everything was over when suddenly a black sloth bear came out panting in the hot sun. Panting means having difficulty in breathing, taking long deep breath. A bear appeared suddenly before them, before the party of hunters who were hunting the wild pigs in the sugarcane fields. Now I will not shoot a sloth bear wantonly. Wantonly means for no good reason, just casually. I will not shoot the wild bear, the narrator says. But unfortunately for the poor beast, one of my companions did not feel that way about it and promptly shot the bear on the spot. So the sloth bear was killed on the spot with a gun. As we watched the fallen animal, we were surprised to see that the black fur on its back moved and left the prostrate body. Prostrate means when you worship God before the idol of the god, you lie down in the prostrate position. Your face is down, head is your face is down, and your back is up. That is called prostrate position. In prostrate position, the body of the dead sloth bear was lying, and something they saw moving on the back of that dead body of that mother sloth bear. Then we saw it was a then we saw it was a baby bear that had been riding on its mother's back. It was a baby bear that had been riding on its mother's back. When the sudden shot had killed her, mother bear was killed, and it had a baby bear which was on the back of the mother that just moved when the mother bear fell dead to the ground. The little creature ran around its prostrate parent, making a pitiful noise, a very pitiful, raising pity and pathos and kindness. That's called pitiful. Okay, so the baby bear made a pitiful noise and started running around the dead body of its mother. Then paragraph number 4, I ran up to it to attempt a capture. The narrator wanted to get hold of it, to capture it. It scooted into the sugarcane field. It ran away into the sugarcane field. Following it with my companions, I was at last able to grab it by the scuff of its neck. Scuff means back part of the neck. Hairy back part of the neck is called scuff. So the author was able to get hold of it by its scuff. While it snapped and tried to scratch me with its long hooked claws. The baby bear had long hooked claws, long nails, and tried to scratch and snap the author's hand. Well, then what happens? They got hold of it, and we put it in one of the gunny bags we had brought. Gunny bags means jute or hemp bag. That's called gunny bag. So they put it in a gunny bag that they had brought, and when I got back to Bangalore, I duly presented it to my wife. He gave that baby bear as a gift to his wife. She was delighted. She at once put a colored ribbon around its neck, and after discovering that the cub was a boy, She christened it Bruno. Christened it means she gave it the name Bruno. When she came to know it is a male male bear. It is a male baby bear. So she gave the name Bruno. And a colored ribbon she put around the neck just to give the identity to the animal that it is a pet bear. Then the sixth paragraph, my dear boys and girls, it goes like this. Bruno soon took to drinking milk from a bottle. It was but a step further, and within a very few days, he started eating and drinking everything else. And everything is the right word, for he ate porridge. Porridge means, this dalia you make out of the grains, that's called porridge. So he ate porridge made from any ingredients, vegetables, fruit, nuts, meat, especially the pork. Pork means the meat of pigs, that's called pork. Curry and rice regardless of condiments and chilies. There were masala or condiments, fragrant substances in all these things, in curry, etc., and chilies were there. Still Bruno ate them. Then bread, eggs, chocolates, sweets, pudding, ice cream, etc., etc., etc. So all these things the bear ate. As for drink, milk, tea, coffee, lime juice, aerated water, that means fizzy water like soda, etc., etc., soda and this lime juice and orange juice, that's called aerated or fizzy water. Aerated water, buttermilk, beer, alcoholic liquor, and in fact sorry, in fact anything liquid, it all went down with relish, with liking, with taste. All these things he ate and drank. So in this paragraph we are told about the food and drink habits of the animal, that that pet sloth there, that pet sloth there. Then the seventh paragraph, the bear became very attached to two Alsatian dogs. The narrator had two pet dogs. Two Alsatian means German Shepherd pet dogs he had, and the bear became friendly with them. And to all the children of the tenants. Tenants means those who live on rent in a rented house. They are called the tenants. So the tenants had their children, and the baby bear became attached to the children of the tenants living in our bungalow. In their bungalow, the tenants were living, and their children became friendly with the bear. He was left quite free in his younger days, and spent his time in playing, running into the kitchen, and going to sleep in our beds. So all freedom was given to the baby bear to move anywhere in the house. It was not tethered or tied to any particular place. Okay, then then one day one accident just takes place. About that the narrator has told you in this 8th paragraph. One day an accident befell him. I put down poison, that is barium carbonate, to kill the rats and mice that had got into my library. Bruno entered the library, as he often did, and he ate some of the poison. Some of barium carbonate he consumed, he ate. Now he is poisoned. Okay. Paralysis set in to the extent that he could not stand on his feet. His body became paralyzed and he was unable to stand. He could not stand or move. But he dragged himself on his stumps to my wife, who called me. On his stumps means on his front legs, he just dragged his body, and the narrator's wife was horrified, and she called the narrator to tell him that the animal is poisoned. I guessed what had happened. Off I rushed in the car to the vet's residence. Veterinary doctor who treats the animals is called vet. So the narrator takes the animal to the vet's or the veterinarian doctor's residence. A case of poisoning. Tame bear, barium carbonate. What to do? The doctor also was wondering what kind of treatment should be given to the animal who had consumed barium carbonate. So he consulted some manuals, some books, the veterinarian doctor. Out came his medical books, and a feverish reference to index began. What poison did you say, sir? Barium carbonate. Ah, yes, barium salts. Ah, barium carbonate. Barium carbonate. Symptoms: paralysis. Okay, his body was already paralyzed. That was the symptom, which was very obvious, very very apparent. Treatment: injections of something. Okay, just a minute, sir. I will bring my syringe and the medicine, the vet told the narrator. A dash back to the car. Bruno is still floundering. Floundering means struggling to move. He was floundering about on his stumps. He was trying to move, but he was unable to move. But clearly weakening rapidly. He was becoming weaker and weaker. Some vomiting, heavy breathing, with heaving flanks and gaping mouth. He opened his mouth and his flanks were heaving. Flank is side part of the body, that is called flanks. Okay, his flanks were heaving as he was taking deep breath, and his mouth was open. It was opening, gaping. This is how the animal was behaving as it was poisoned. Then then what happens? Hold him, everybody. In goes the hypodermic. Bruno squeals. 10 cc of the antidote enters his system without a drop being wasted. Then hypodermic is a long needle used to give an injection under the skin. That is called hypodermic. So with the help of hypodermic, the animal was injected. 10 cc dose was given to the animal. 10 minutes later, condition unchanged. There was no improvement. Another 10 cc injected. Another dose was given. Okay. 10 minutes later, breathing less stertorous. Breathing less stertorous. Stertorous means noisy breathing. So it became less noisy. Less noisy it became. Stertorous means less noisy breathing. Now it became. That means the condition of the animal was improving as the dose of this medicine had started working on his body. So within 10 minutes the animal started showing the symptoms of recovery. Okay, so less stertorous breathing. Okay, Bruno can move his arms and legs a little, although he cannot stand yet. He was able to move his arms and legs. Earlier his back legs he was unable to, his hind legs he was unable to move, but now he could move because of the effect of the medication. but he was unable to stand. 30 minutes later, Bruno gets up and has a great feed. Within half an hour, he was recovered and he eats something. Okay? He looks at us disdainfully. Disdainfully means angrily. He looked at the author as much as to say, "What's barium carbonate to a big black bear like me?" Bruno is still eating. That means he, as if he challenged that barium carbonate poison, that I'm a big black bear and it can't harm me. Out of fun, jovially, the author says like that. Okay, Bruno is still eating. That means he is improving. He started eating. Then, in paragraph number 11, the author tells you about another such incident, how he was another how he was saved the next time when he consumed some oil. About that, author tells you in paragraph number 11. Another time he found nearly 1 gallon of old engine oil, which I had drained from the sump of the Studebaker. This Studebaker is a old American car. Sump means the oil tank or oil reservoir in the body of the car. In the body of a car, oil reservoir or oil tank is called sump. So the author had drained or removed the oil, engine oil, from the uh, oil tank of the car. The car, an old American car, Studebaker. The name of the car was this, and was keeping as a weapon against the inroads of termites. To drive away termites, the author had kept the engine oil. He promptly drank the lot. He had kept the engine oil in some pot, okay, or some container. It was open, and from there the animal Bruno drank the engine oil, but it had no ill effects whatever. He consumed it, but he was saved because the oil was not poisonous. So this was the second time how Bruno did some mischief, knowingly or unknowingly. Then the days passed by, the months rolled on, and Bruno had grown many times the size he was when he came. He had equaled the Alsatians in height and had even outgrown them. He became bigger than the Alsatian dogs. He started growing very fast. He was eating and drinking properly, but was just as sweet, just as mischievous, just as playful. He was sweet, mischievous, and playful. This is how the animal has been described by the author. And he was very fond of us all. He loved the narrator and his wife so much. Above all, he loved my wife, and she loved him too. She had changed his name from Bruno to Baba, a Hindustani word signifying small boy. A small boy in Hindi is called Baba. So his wife gave him the name Baba. She changed her name. And and he could do a few tricks too. What tricks he could do? The author tells you here. At the command means order, Baba wrestle or Baba box. Box means do boxing, as the heavyweight champions do, like that. Baba box. He vigorously tackled anyone who came forward for a rough and tumble. That means he did boxing, okay. He wrestled with anyone who confronted him, okay, and just he tumbled down. For fun's sake, he was doing all these things. Okay, that means he was playing with the narrator and his wife like that. Give him a stick and say, Baba, hold gun. So that stick he thought is a gun. And he pointed the stick at you as you point the gun to any object. Ask him, Baba, where is baby? And he immediately produced and cradled. Cradle means put in a cradle. So what? Affectionately, a stump of wood which he had carefully concealed in his straw bed. In his straw bed, he had concealed or hidden one stump of wood whom he thought who he thought is a baby. And if you said, where is the baby, he would show that stump of wood to the narrator as if it was a baby. So in this way the animal had started recognizing the things, and he had started understanding the language of the narrator and his wife. The human language he had started understanding. But because of the tenant's children, poor Bruno or Baba had to be kept chained most of the time. They had chained him. They didn't let him free most of the time because there were tenants' children. They would play, and the animal might harm them, or they might harm the animal. For that reason, he was tethered. He was kept chained. Okay. Then paragraph number 13, my dear boys and girls. Then my son and I advised my wife, and friends advised her too, to give Baba to the zoo at Mysore. Mysore is near from Bangalore, and there is a famous zoo in Mysore. So the narrator and his friends tried to convince narrator's wife that she should donate the animal to Mysore Zoo. He was getting too big to keep at home, and for that reason it was difficult to maintain that animal as a pet, and that's why they decided that the animal should be moved or donated to the government zoo at Mysore. After some weeks of such advice, she at last consented. Initially, in the beginning, she didn't give her consent. She didn't agree. But finally, the narrator's wife agreed that the animal can be donated to the Mysore Zoo. Hastily, and before she could change her mind, a letter was written to the curator of the zoo. Curator means who is the in charge of the zoo. In charge of the zoo, or the caretaker of the zoo. Immediately a letter was written to the zoo in charge. Okay. Did he want a tame bear for his collection? He replied yes. The zoo sent a cage from Mysore in a lorry, a distance of 87 miles. From Bangalore to Mysore, the distance is 87 miles, and a lorry was sent to Bangalore to the narrator's residence to collect Baba, the bear. And Baba was pegged off. He was to be sent to the zoo at Mysore. Well, the next paragraph. We all missed him greatly. Now the animal is in Mysore Zoo. It is gone. So the narrator and his wife, they missed him greatly, but in a sense we were relieved. My wife was inconsolable. She could not be consoled. Okay, she could not be consoled. She became quite relentless, quite restless. Okay, very disturbed, because she loved the animal too much, and you couldn't convince her at all when the animal was taken away from her. She wept and fretted. Fret means to express worry or become unhappy, unrelaxed. That's called fret. She wept and fretted. She became very worried. For the for the first few days, she would not eat a thing. Then she wrote a number of letters to the curator. How was Baba? Back came the replies. Well, but fretting. He refuses food too. So here the narrator's wife was fretting, she was worrying, and there in the zoo the animal also was fretting. This is how the curator or the caretaker of the zoo told his wife in his letter. and and Baba was not eating food too, he said in his letter. Then the narrator's friends visit the Mysore Zoo and they bring the news about the animal. You see, that is in paragraph number 15. After that, friends visiting Mysore were begged to make a point of going to the zoo and seeing how Baba was getting along. They reported that he was well but looked very thin and sad. He looked very thin, very weak, and very sad because he was fretting. He was remembering the narrator and his wife. He was missing them too much. All the keepers of the zoo said he was fretting. For 3 months, I managed to restrain my wife from visiting Mysore. The narrator's wife wanted to visit Mysore Zoo immediately to see Baba. Okay, but for 3 months, the author restrained her from visiting the zoo at Mysore. Then she said one day, I must see Baba. Either you take me by car or I will go myself by bus or train. So I took her by car. Uh, the narrator takes his wife to Mysore Zoo by car to see how the animal was faring in the zoo. Paragraph 16. Friends had conjectured means they had guessed or they had imagined or guessed. You do guessing or you make imagination. Friends had conjectured that the bear would not recognize her. They had thought that the bear would not recognize the narrator's wife. I had thought so too, because after a gap of a few weeks, the animal might have forgotten the narrator's wife. They had thought that. But while she was yet some yards from his cage, Baba saw her and recognized her. He howled with happiness. He howled, he gave a shrill cry with happiness. He howled with happiness. Okay. She ran up to him, patted him through the bars of the cage in which he was kept, and he stood on his head in delight. The animal also became extremely delighted, extremely happy, and he stood on his head. And she remained there for 3 hours in the zoo till the zoo was to be closed in the evening. For the next 3 hours, she would not leave that cage. She gave him tea, lemonade, cakes, ice cream, and what not. Then closing time came, and we had to leave. My wife cried bitterly. She started weeping very bitterly. Baba cried bitterly. The animal also started crying. Even the hardened curator and the keepers felt depressed. Curator and the other employees of the zoo, when they saw the love between the narrator's wife and the animal, they also felt very, very depressed. As for me, I had reconciled myself to what I knew was going to happen next. The author had reconciled himself because he knew what was going to happen next. He now could foresee that the wife would not allow the animal to remain in the zoo anymore, she would ask the curator that they would like to take the animal back home. He was just guessing. This is what he means by this line. Okay, then let us read this paragraph number 18, my dear boys and girls. Oh, please, sir, she asked the curator, may I have my Baba back? Hesitantly, he answered, Madam, he belongs to the zoo and is government property now. I cannot give away government property. But if my boss, the superintendent at Bangalore, agrees, certainly you may have him back. So the curator says you seek permission from the superintendent of zoo who lives in Bangalore, and if he gives you permission, then you can take your Baba, your animal, back home. And the narrator and his wife, they were the residents of Bangalore, and the superintendent was in Bangalore. Okay, then there followed the return journey to Bangalore and a visit to the superintendent's bungalow. They go to his bungalow, okay, to his residence. A tearful pleading, very tearfully, the narrator's wife pleads him, she requests him, okay, pleading, requesting, Baba and I are both fretting, we are worrying for each other. Will you please give him back to me? She asks the superintendent of the zoo. He was a kind-hearted man. The superintendent was a kind-hearted man and consented, means he agreed that they could take the animal home. Not only that, but he wrote to the curator telling him to lend us a cage for transporting the bear to Bangalore. So the superintendent wrote a letter to the curator that the animal could be moved from Mysore Zoo to Bangalore to his home back in a cage. Well, then what happens? Back we went to Mysore again, armed with the superintendent's letter. Baba was driven into a small cage and hoisted on top of the car. He was positioned on the top of the car of the narrator, okay, in a cage. The cage was tied securely, and a slow and careful return journey to Bangalore was accomplished. So they brought him back home, driving the car very slowly. Now the animal Baba is back home. Once home, a squad of coolies were engaged for special work in our compound. And now how to keep the animal? It had grown very big, very huge. So how to keep him? For that they are making arrangements. So they engage some coolies to work in their courtyard, in their compound. Okay. An island was made for Baba. An island. All around there was a pit. In the middle there was an island where Baba would live. It was 20 feet long and 15 feet wide. The island's size was 20 feet long and 15 feet wide, and was surrounded by a dry pit or moat. Dry pit was dug around that island so that Baba should not go away from there. He should stay on the island. 6 feet wide and 7 feet deep. That dry pit or moat was 6 feet wide and 7 feet deep. A wooden box that once housed fowls. Fowls means this cocks and hens. Fowls. House fowls. A wooden box that once housed fowls was brought and put on the island for Baba to sleep in at night. So one wooden box was provided to Baba so that he could sleep in it during night. Straw was placed, dry grass, straw was placed inside to keep him warm, and his baby, the gnarled means twisted stump of tree, along with his gun, the piece of bamboo. So his gun was a piece of bamboo, and his baby was a gnarled or twisted, rough or rugged stump of a tree. Okay, both of which had been sentimentally preserved since he had been sent away to the zoo, were put back for him to play with. So on the island, his baby and his gun were put back so that he could play with these toys. Okay, so in this way the arrangement was made for the animal at their home. Now in paragraph number 22 you are told, my dear boys and girls, it is like this. In a few days the coolies hoisted the cage on the island, and Baba was released. Baba was released on the island. He was set free on the island. He was delighted. He was very happy. Standing on his hind legs, means back legs, he pointed his gun and cradled his baby. These two toys he was playing with, as you are already told. My wife spent hours sitting on a chair there. Chair there means on the island. She sat in a chair while he sat on her lap. He was 15 months old and pretty heavy too. That means he had almost grown to a very, very huge, very big size of the grown up sloth bear. Okay, then how his wife reached that island, because all around there was pit. So how she reached the island, the narrator tells you in paragraph number 23. The way my wife reaches the island and leaves it is interesting. I have tied a rope to the overhanging branch of a mango tree with a loop at its end. There was a mango tree, huge mango tree, and a branch was overhanging just over that island. Okay, so the author says he had tied a long rope on that branch, overhanging branch of the mango tree, and at the end of that rope he had made a loop to put the leg. Okay, putting one foot in the loop, she kicked off with the other to bridge the 6-foot gap that constitutes the width of the surrounding pit. So she put one foot in the loop and kicked with another foot, and she was to the other side of the pit. Thus she reached the island, played with Baba the bear, stayed there for a while, and then she fed him, and then she used to come back the same way. The return journey is made the same way. But who can say? But return journey means as she went, keeping a foot in a loop and then pushing and reaching the island, and while coming back she did the same thing and reached the other side. Okay. But who can say now that a sloth bear has no sense of affection, no memory, and no individual characteristics? Who can say means the author means to say that a sloth bear also has a sense of affection. He is affectionate, as he was affectionate to his wife, and the narrator. Who can say that he had no memory? Yes, he had memory. He remembered his wife, even he recognized his wife. He recognized his wife even after he met her after months. And who can say that he doesn't have individual characteristics? He had individual characteristics. So the animal had feelings and he had intelligence. This was revealed by the character of this sloth bear, whom they had named Baba. So there, this beautiful story by Kenneth Anderson is over, my dear boys and girls. There are questions. You attempt them. I will be giving you some additional questions. That's all for today. Have a good day. Bye.